Well, good morning, everyone. This is the second of 2 virtual resource fairs on home and community farming being presented by the Social Resilience Capacity Area Committee. And here's a little background on that. FEMA has divided up the recovery support functions to categorize the different aspects of recovery. And in studying their thinking, we found that Hawaii does not quite fit comfortably into that structure. And we discovered that New Zealand, another island population that has its own first culture, had looked at recovery from their own worldview, and we found that that suited us a little better. They created what they call resilience capacity areas, and there are 6: social, economic, natural, built, cultural, and government. And we've adopted their structure. It's a much more comfortable way for us to come together and work out our recovery. The Social Resilience Capacity Area Committee is open to any who would like to participate. Our co-chairs are Sharon Hirota from the County's Office of Housing, Greg Armstrong from Leilani Estates, and Smiley Burrows from Green Lake, Kapoho. Our technical support today is Marcia Yoshiyama from Housing. Sharon Hirota is unable to be here with us today. My name is Patty Pinto. I'm on the Social Resilience Capacity Committee, and I'm also a member of the county's Kilauea Recovery Team. Recently, the Social Committee has been focusing on our attention on food resilience and on the small home and community farmer. We live in this green paradise, and you'd think that all we had to do was go outside and spread some seeds around, but we've all found it's a little trickier than that. What thrives at one altitude may not produce fruit at another. You can actually get too much rain. There's a whole universe of pests to control. What about indigenous or canoe crops? Keeping invasives out of your garden? Who can offer help or advice? What methods work in my area? We have a great group of presenters this morning. From the Hawaii Volcano Circus, we have Galen Alpine and Morgan Langham, and they have small farm workshops in the Out on a Limb gleaning program. From O Maku'u ke Kahua, we have Lawa'e ke Kahuna, and she's working with cultural practitioners and the Maku'u homestead farmers. From Volcano Friends Feeding Friends, we have Kei La'a, Monica Pezzi, Ava Hoshi, and Stephanie Potter, and they have a variety of crop and food sharing projects. And from Puna Makaukau, the Fern Acres Community Resilience Hub, Claudia Ziroli, and she will share from her experience a variety of farming techniques, methods, and resources. Okay, does everyone know how to use the raise your hand function? They're in reactions. You can ask questions of the presenters, and we will have a question answer period at the end of this workshop. You can also type your questions into the chat box. Our tech people will monitor your questions and bring them to the attention of the presenters. Please keep yourself muted unless you're talking. Some of us are not showing our video in an effort to conserve bandwidth, and if you wish to do the same, please feel free. But if you're talking, we'd love to see your face. A copy of this presentation and all the accompanying contact and resource information will be emailed to you after this workshop. We are recording this session, and a recording will be made available on the Kilauea Recovery website, and we'll send you a link when it's posted. So let's get started. We'll start with Hawaii Volcano Circus, Galen Alpine, and Morgan Langham. Take it away.
Aloha, I'm Morgan Langham, the Executive Director of Hawaii's Volcano Circus, and I'm so excited that Galen Alpine is able to be here today. He's going to be talking about our awesome project Out on a Limb that he's been heading up down here in Lower Kalapana at Space, and he's going to talk about how you can do something similar in your neighborhood.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. A lot of what we're doing at Space and for the Hawaii Volcano Circus was instigated by a grant that we received about a year ago through Puna Strong to boost education and help people figure out, design, and cultivate more home and micro farms here in Lower Puna. So we're really grateful for that. But by no means anything that we're doing is limited to needing the grant resources. Most of what we've gotten to do has been through community outreach and just utilizing local resources, local knowledge in our direct area. And through the Puna Strong, we're able to get a lot of soil, a lot of mulch, a lot of amazing tools, a lot of things that really bolstered and helped our program, especially the current iteration of our gardening program, which we are starting and working on currently. But certainly a lot of what I'll be talking about can be done just as community peer-to-peer resources. So kind of the biggest thing and the most exciting thing that we've taken part in the past year has been creating a micro farm tour series in our neighborhood of Seaview. And for this, we kind of just cruised around the neighborhood. The lots are quite small, so it's pretty obvious to see who is inspired by producing food and micro agriculture on their lots. And also just by living here for a while, we've gotten to know a lot of the people who are doing this. So we went around and we chose 6 of our favorite properties. And we asked them if they'd be willing to host a tour and a small work party to provide education for folks in this area and to provide tips on growing specifically in this bioregion, which, as I'm sure everyone has realized here in Hawaii, you know, one thing might grow great, you know, below 1,000 feet and above 1,000 feet. Doesn't even have the possibility of fruiting. And the same goes for your annual rainfall and, you know, the pests that you have in that area, as Patty mentioned. So certainly it's really good to try to do biospecific classes and education, but it's not limited to that. And there are a lot of things that are pretty unanimous across the board that will grow well. So for that, we contacted some of the local farms in our area and just home garden people that inspired us. And we organized a group of people through social media and word of mouth. We made flyers and handed them out at local events. So we got about 25 people. And there was actually more interest in that, but because of the COVID regulations at the time, we limited our class sizes to 25 per the state mandate of outdoor gatherings. And so we started, the first tour was at a local banana farm where the guys have actually moved their Bananarama bakery up to Pahoa now. And it's a business that started locally, which is also inspiring for people to see. And we talked about bananas and diseases and everything from propagating to harvesting to maintaining to mulching. And that was a really great resource. People learned a lot and people got really inspired and went out and planted bananas. And that's also a really fun thing. Every week we come back together and we start off like, hey, like who utilized the information that they learned last week? And it's so great to see everyone's excitement about what they brought, what they learned. Another one that we did was a local guy, Sankerton, who's really inspirational. He's dedicated several of his lots in Seaview specifically to agriculture, and he is all about mulch. Whenever he can get dump mulch from the Hilo transfer station, he gets that. Whenever he has any resource available to him, he gets it. And his mulch piles are incredible. He has almost no weeds on his land. He has feet of mulch around all of his trees. And he has trees that have been in the ground for 3 years that look healthier than any other citrus tree that we see in Seaview. So his thing, because we're growing on a 1955 lava flow here that has been bulldozed, but there's very little topsoil, certainly no residual ground soil. So we're building it all from the ground above, and then that percolates and filters down into the ground. So the big takeaway that we got from him was mulch and fertilizing. Every month he fertilizes with chicken manure. He keeps his plant fed. He fertilizes to the drip line of all the trees. And, you know, he grows the biggest pineapples, the biggest papayas. His fruit trees are amazing. His coconuts are fruiting 4 feet off the ground. Like everybody was just blown away at and it shows. His practice, his whole life is dedicated to his farm. He spends every day there weeding, fertilizing, mulching, giving his plants love. He chants to his plants, and it shows. You know, everyone is just blown away, us included. And we've seen the fertility grow on our land, even just from these classes and what we learned and the inspiration of really mulching and fertilizing. And then we went around to a couple more farms, and it was just great to see the diversity. And it was also so funny because one person will be like, this is how you do it. And then the next week, the next person would be like, well, this is how you do it. And everyone in the class is kind of like looking at each other. Well, like, well, which is the right way to do it? And the takeaway was there's a lot of different ways to do it. And what's really great about a lot of these people is that they have discovered this through trial and error. And they've learned a lot of hard lessons that hopefully we don't have to learn so much. So really the biggest takeaway from these tour and these sessions was that to talk to your neighbors, to get with the people who are growing in your community, to share your resources, to share your knowledge. And, you know, and then through that, it builds community. You find the people that are excited about this stuff. And we've had people who are now inviting others to work parties on their land. They're hiring one another to help each other out with different projects. They're bouncing ideas off of one another. They're sharing seeds. They're sharing plants. You know, and this has been a hard thing through COVID. We really kind of shut down and we stopped like opening up to one another. We started meeting on the internet. And you can share a lot of knowledge, but it's kind of hard for me to like pass plants and pass seeds to you guys through this computer, unfortunately. So you know, it's really important to remember that, to get out there. It's, you know, gardening and farming is an amazing thing because it is outdoors, it is safe, you know, with the right precautions through these COVID times. And it's been really amazing to see that community grow. And so those classes continued. The next series, 6-week series that we offered was a fruit tree and orchard maintenance series. And it was much of the same people that came. And this series was more kind of like 50% information and then 50% hands-on learning. So we planted trees with people at space, which is really exciting. We got a new citrus orchard going there, and then we mulched them and we fertilized them and we taught people the proper amendments to put in there with them. We did a pruning class where we went into an old orchard at Belly Acres and we saw trees that were old and almost at the end of their life and dying. We saw trees that just needed some more airflow and help. We went through, we pruned one tree in front of everybody, and then we just gave people secateurs and hand saws and we just let them go for it. And they loved it. And the fruit trees now, we go back a couple months later and they're so full of vitality and vibrance. And really people get to see, wow, this is, you know, what happens when we take care of something, it really bounces back. We did an air layering class and a local farm donated a bunch of lychee air layers. So we got to send everybody home with air layers and they planted them right away and they did really good, or they didn't plant them right away and they didn't do so good. And we get to talk about that. So it's been a really nice balance for me as well, that the learning of like the physical hands-on learning followed, or, you know, following the class itself is really important for people to remember the lessons and to remember how to do these things and to get great stuff done. You know, we got the whole orchard pruned, we got the whole orchard fertilized and mulched, and we planted trees. And people can be proud of that and come back for, you know, years to come and see what they've done. So another part and the final part of this class is a garden development and design program that we're doing right now at Space. And certainly the resources that we received from Puna Strong really helped out with this. We got lots of beautiful macnut soil. We got lots of mulch. We're like re-landscaping the face of Space forever. We're installing these big gardens. We're collaborating with the men of Pa'a, Iopa and his crew, and they came in and have helped us install these large kalo beds, which we're actually going to be planting tomorrow. So if anybody out there is really interested in learning and planting kalo, tomorrow at 4 p.m. at Seaview Performing Arts Center in Seaview, we will be doing that. And you can also follow us Out on a Limb on Facebook or Instagram, and that has our class schedules on there. So that's been really incredible too, just to get to partner with local resources and get these people connected with what we're doing and also us connected with what they're doing. And the last thing is our gleaning project, and that is gathering and utilizing local resources, local food, fruit, vegetables, what people have in abundance on their property that maybe they don't have the time to harvest, or maybe it's a vacation rental, or it's going to waste. And we develop a relationship with these people. And then we schedule a time, we go in there, we harvest, we generally company with a local nonprofit or church or food pantry or something that's doing a food drive or giveaway that day. And we get a bunch of fresh fruit, fresh produce, we harvest it, we wash it, we bring it to them, and then they distribute it throughout the community for us as well. And we've also made a fruit stand at Space. It takes something, leaves something, free fruit stand. There's a school at Space during the weekdays in the school year. And so kids can come and just grab some fruit out of that fruit stand. Just yesterday, somebody, said they brought a bunch of really amazing mangoes to the fruit stand, and they posted that on our local Seaview residents page. So people are excited about sharing their abundance. They can be proud of what they grew. And it's a good problem to have when you're creating too much of what you are creating in abundance, and you get to share that with your community. I'm not sure of time. Is that my time?
Oh, you're close. You have a couple minutes.
Okay, great. So yeah, and for that fruit stand, we were able to employ a local artist who built the fruit stand out of all local and reused materials. And it's been really great to have a place. It's another hub, and in the future, we'd like to have a lot more of these spread around the neighborhood. And another part of our project that we still have implement is to make a map of all the local fruit stands in this area, and then have a posting of when people put stuff there. So again, people are being proud, they're getting credit for what they're putting there. And then the greater community knows, often with fruit, it's really important to know it's there so you can get it right away, so it doesn't sit there for a couple days or over the weekend or whatever. Amazingly enough, we've had I can only remember one instance in the past year that we've actually had some fruit rot at our fruit stand. So for the most part, everybody is very good about bringing it in there and then coming and getting it and distributing it to one another. And if there's no fruit stand, often we'll harvest and we'll leave a box of fruit at the mailboxes, or we have a community park, and we'll write, this is from out on a limb, this is when we harvested it, free, please enjoy. And those have always been emptied within a couple hours of them being there. So that just feels really good to help feed people, and to utilize. One of the people that we glean from is an older lady, and she doesn't have the resources to harvest her food anymore as easily as she used to. So we go in there, and part of our protocol is that 1/3 of the gleaning goes to the property owner, 1/3 goes to the volunteers, and 1/3 goes back to the community. But in actuality, generally more like 90% goes back to the community, and the volunteers take some, the landowner takes some. But in this lady's case, it was really great to be able to hand her fruit cleaned and off the tree and say, here you go. Thank you so much for sharing your resources with us.
Galen, you have a question. Kevin asked, have you filmed your workshops? And can you tell us how we can sign up to participate in some of your work?
Yeah, you can, we'll put in the chat the contact that we have for that. Once I'm done, I'm not very good at multitasking on these computer things, but yeah, we will put that in there, or you can just follow us Out on a Limb on Facebook, and you can message us and see what we're doing. We announce our classes every week. Talias and McEnany, who's our grant writer and tech coordinator, is on vacation at the moment, so we might not be super quick at getting back to you, but we will get back to you. And unfortunately, no, we have not videoed these classes yet. Moving forward in the future, we'd like to continue this program, and we can certainly work on that one. But unfortunately, to most of us farmers, this whole technological part of it isn't really what we're the best at. And if anyone has resources or is inspired to do so, we would love to collaborate with you on that one. Any other questions immediately?
There's one in the chat.
Go ahead.
My question is, I mean, first of all, I just want to say it's amazing. Sorry if I'm feedbacking for some reason. My question is, are you connected in any way with the Resilience Hubs network they're building out on Hawaii Island?
Yes, we actually just applied for their Resilience Hub 3.0. And Kevin, who was also supporting with that, and Jay Patterson. And so we're just starting to learn about what they do and how we can learn from them and collaborate with them.
Yay. And is this also with Vibrant Hawaii? Do you know them?
Yeah, Vibrant Hawaii, they're the ones that are, I think, leading the Resilience Hub projects here on the island. So they're who we're connecting with for the Resilience Hub 3.0 project to see if we can collaborate on.
Mahalo.
We have a 2-year commitment for that.
Thank you.
Are
Thanks,
there any more
everyone.
questions? Okay, thank you, Galen and Morgan. And now we're going to move on to Lawai'a ke Kahuna from O Maku'u ke Kahua.
Aloha mai kākou, o wau ono Lawai'a ke Kahuna. I am the executive director of O Maku'u ke Kahua. We are a sister homestead or nonprofit to the Maku'u Farmers Hawaiian Homestead Association. So we're servicing our Native Hawaiians here in our community. I'm just going to run through the pictures, and if you folks have any questions, please feel free to just put them in the chat, and we'll answer that as soon as possible. But we are also well known for our Maku'u Farmers Market. To the left of your screen, top left, that's pretty much an aerial view of our market. Our market has been in existence from 2001. We had a total of 3 vendors. I myself was one of them, selling poi from YPO, Jim King, if you know him. I have been selling his poi from then. We also had one of our oldest members, Auntie Emily Naiole, selling her plants from her yard. Auntie Shirley Pedro also selling her ono fruits, lychee, mangoes from her booth. And we also had one of our family friends selling anthuriums. But our market since then has grown. During COVID, we did go through a real hard decline. And also with the lava flow, we lost majority of our farmers, but we are an ag subdivision. We're agricultural land. So utilizing the market to sell our local grown produce was the intention. And it grew to be so much bigger than that, which is a blessing for us and everyone in the community and beyond. To the right of that picture is my Ohana. They are the crew that keeps the Maku'u Farmers Market running and all the operations on site. We are really small in numbers, but making a greater impact for the community. Below is our picture of our Mala Ho'oulu'ike, which I'll get to in a minute, but that is our community garden situated directly behind of the market. You can't really see it unless you niele in the back, but we are starting to bring out our plants. We mostly grow kalo, Native Hawaiian plants, kukui, a lot of medicinal uhaloa that was naturally grown on the land that we try to malama and take care. Mamaki tea, we partner with Shaka Tea. If you folks don't know them, they are a young power couple that is known worldwide now for their Shaka Tea drinks. We also partner with we used to partner with Vibrant Hawaii, the County of Hawaii, Matt Kleinfelder, with food distributions to the community. And we also try to keep our farmers market open for the community to access EBT services, and try to continue with food distributions to also help with the middle class Ohana who also use their cash for food and do not have EBT access. We also continue our, I would say, programs, but I don't really want to refer to our work as programs because it's really a life-changing. We practice culture all the time, and the only way we know how to pass it down to our keiki is to do the work. So 100% of our keiki in the homestead know how to do an imu. You can find the imu picture right on the bottom of the logo. And the imu is an underground oven that we used to cook before by the mass amount. We do this for fundraisers. We do this for practice for our keiki to learn how to ma'a, to familiarize themselves with the routine and the practice all associated with that. To the right of that picture, we do have our Papaku'i workshop, and the Papaku'i workshop has been in existence since 2019 is when we first started. This was the picture when we first started. And it kind of sparked like a whole program. And we continue to do that today. On Saturday, we had another mass program for Papaku'i, and now we run the program where you would come in to harvest. You would learn how to save the huli, and the huli is babies that you can cut off. You save the bottom part for poi, and then you save the top half for huli. So every ohana goes home with huli that we have, and every ohana goes home with poi. They learn how to pound poi. They learn how the processes of cooking, and just the time that we spend together is what we value the most. And that's where we get genealogies coming out, where we all get to find out we're all related. And just from our kupunas teaching us, we have our kupunas now coming out to teach us. And we learn new olelo that was used back then that is not commonly used today. We do learn that every ohana is different, and when you are farming or learning someone else's ike knowledge, you are learning that ohana's ike, and everyone is different and everyone learns different. But to get the kupunas talking about it and teaching us, we're holding a little bit more from the past, from our kupuna, and connecting with them is such a blessing and has been such an honor to learn. We also run La Ohana Days, and La Ohana Days is dedicated to the community. We try to get our homestead lessees back into the mala where they would help us to maintain the area, because the mala that we have is growing so much, and it is hard. Farming is hard. It's not easy, and it's not for everyone, but when we do it together, it's such a easier task to do. So we try to work as a ohana so that we all would be able to get things done faster and create unity with our ohana. On the top of the screen, that is just a glimpse picture of our mala. And we continue to grow kalo of Puna. So we got rid of our hybrids. If you do not know what hybrids are, they are kind of, I wouldn't say fake, but cloned to be produce more in less time. But we got rid of the hybrids and we maintain the Puna varieties that we use, we plant and use. So we make sure that what we plant is what we can use from our mala. And we go all the way to rather it's making food or doing specific dyes that they use, or arts and crafts. We go all out with whatever we grow. We also have community volunteers that come in on a daily or weekly. We have schools that come into our mala. We have Haas, Kuokala, Pohoa High School and Intermediate. We partner with Lili'u'o Kalani Trust because they help our Native Hawaiian children rehabilitate. We have grown this garden from funding from DHHL, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and it has just been such a blessing to utilize this mala as a peer-to-peer teaching foundation. We like to, our people, or a lot of people, and all, I would say, gets intimidated, and it is intimidating to farm because there's so much expense that comes from it that we do not realize, which is like Volcano had said, you know, mulch is expensive. It's also far away to transport. We do not have dirt. We have to bring it all in from Sanford's and the transfer station. So maintaining now with fertilizers and, you know, keeping the mala boosted, like had what was said, is the most important. And we do fail. A lot of things die. We do have a desert looking section at sometimes, but it's all a learning experience. And with everyone coming in, I've also learned from a few students from Haas that how to properly replant a'ali'i. You would boil the seeds because the seeds they germinate during the summer. So I'm continuously learning from students way younger than me, and also gaining so much knowledge from the kupuna of this aina that was here from many generations before. And our focus is to learn from them before they hala, before they pass, and to carry on that ike of the family of this area. So this is kind of like a rough of who we are and who we service, and we're just open to the community. So if you're interested, please just come by. It's really Ohana based. So once you step in the gates, you'll be Ohana, warning. But yes, I have 3 minutes more. I'll take any questions if you folks have any.
Kevin asks if you get fire ants with your mulch from the dump.
Well, what happens with the mulch when it comes in is we cover it with tarp for a few months. So we it was suggested that we heat box it, and that's just to cover it with tarp or like black plastic, and you just let it sit, and it's supposed to, the heat is supposed to kill everything in it. We do actually have fire ants, and we've reached out to many years ago, the fire ant, I'm not even sure if they're association, but we had them come out and they did educational classes on how to manage fire ants. And we came about with the Xanax gum and the Tango. It's a mixture with peanut butter, and you just spray it around your garden, your mala. It's like a thick yogurt base, and that's what we've been using along with some granules. But we're pretty good on fire ants. You just have to keep maintaining it. And I heard that they are really resilient, so you can't use too much of the same treatment or they'll adapt to it. So
I was just wondering if they're coming in on the mulch.
I'm not, it could be a big part of it.
Yeah, well, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're a serious impediment to farming, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Handling them.
when we first started, our garden was going down, like it was dying. And that was the most maintenance we had to do, was just with the fire ants. And that took months. That took like 6 to 8 months.
Right.
Yeah, to get it under control where it's not like eating everything.
And when was that?
I would say it was in 2020.
Oh.
I can, I'll go find her information. I'll post it up for Marsha to share with the group. They're really good.
Yeah.
You also have a question about slugs and rat lungworm.
I get that. We do have slugs that is coming in. We had lettuce growing on the ground and slugs have been attacking those. And since then we just grew hydroponic lettuce and they haven't been reaching the table. So we do have slugs that's coming in.
That setup you have for growing the lettuce is spectacular. It is worth the trip to go see that alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Mahalo.
Gorgeous greens coming up there. Amazing.
Mahalo nui.
Thank you so much, Loaye.
You're welcome.
Now we're going to move to Volcano Friends Feeding Friends, when we'll start with Kehau La'a.
Aloha kakahiaka kako. Mahalo everyone for joining. Volcano Friends Feeding Friends started 13 years ago. Hey! And we were your semi-typical soup kitchen, where we served hot meals, pantry, a hot shower, and provided at our last meal, probably March 2020, due to COVID, our last count was 450 people a month. Due to the lockdown, the counties shut down our main source of where we cooked, where we prepared our food, and where we served our community. So we had to think about, okay, what's our next step? Where are we going to go? How are we going to pivot from feeding our community? Well, in the meantime, I don't know if you can see this beautiful lady, Dr. Renee Defoe, in her Mu'u over here. She taught us through her book, healthier eating lifestyle. And she educated us on the pretty much poisons that are in processed food, causing us diabetes, high blood pressure, ADHD, you name it, all the no good stuff that are being processed in our food. So she helped us start the IPONO program, which means eating right. And every month we featured a healthy plant, tree, to give away to our community. Our first giveaway, I believe, was the pumpkin, and that's from Awahoshi, one of our neighbors. And along with these plants that you see down here, we would give the actual product from this plant with the nutritional value, with the a recipe, and we let them go, let them have what, grow these things in their yards, and to know that, yeah, you can make something with this. So we encourage that. We dealt with a lot of this is all local farmers, in the background you see bananas and eggs, local eggs. We just had to take off and teach people how to eat a little better and healthier. So it was kind of cool because most of our community never farmed at all. And to see every month when they come and pick up their next plant, the joy on their faces, like, oh, look what I did, look what I did. And, at least they know how to eat. So again, the plants that we purchased were from our local farmers. And so we wanted to support the local farmers, the local fishermen, the local ranchers, if at all possible. Our beef, we bought beef from our Kuihivi ranch. It's just my basic plea to all of you out there right now is support your local farmers. And if you can grow your own food, better yet, because we need to stop depending on the barges to bring in our food. Why are we bringing in 85 to 90% of our food on barges when we can grow them? Look at, we live in the most beautiful place in the world, in my opinion, to grow this food. The moringa you see at the bottom is what probably our second distribution. People now have moringa, high nutritional value on this food, and it's growing in people's yards now. We need to promote more and more local growing, and just like Lawai and Morgan mentioned, we need to grow our own food. Stop depending on the barges, please. Love you guys. Chris?
Thank you, Kehal. I'd like to add also that part of the handouts that were given showed how the farmers maintain their plants, how to propagate them, and what soil requirements were needed, and what fertilizers were needed. So right here, Betty is showing one of our participants the flyers that we distributed during that time. Now could we have Monica? Monica is a farmer and member in the area, and we were able to purchase products from her. She was first one of our source farmers, and as she got to know the group, she became a member. And Monica, would you take it from here?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Aloha, everyone. I'm Monica, and I'm a small organic farmer, seed saver, and beekeeper in Fern Forest. The name of my farm is Alchemy Farm, Hawaii. I love it up here in the forest because I'm surrounded by native ohia and hapu'u. So my farm is unique in that my property is not completely cleared. So I kind of work with retaining these species and kind of interplanting around them. I also have a greenhouse. Some of my short-term crops are Molokai potato, kale, taro, kabocha squash, beans, tomatoes, peppers, spinach, and olena. And for long-term plantings, I've done citrus, soursop, cacao, kukui, banana, asparagus, avocado, and mamaki. So there are challenges up here as far as the rain. The greenhouse is helpful in growing some of these things successfully. The elevation also, we can't grow everything up here. So, you know, we have to be selective about what we're planting, as others mentioned. Pests, we all have problems with. I found that companion planting has helped control some of these pests. And I'm sure many of you have chickens running around, and they're constantly trying to dig up my gardens. So I've kind of figured out how to deal with this. I use rabbit fencing over all my raised beds now. And I screened off my greenhouse so they can't get in there either. I do the Volcano Farmers Market on Sundays, and I sell value-added products such as breads, hummuses. I sell my honey, beeswax candles, mamaki tea. I do medicinal tinctures and skincare products. So just this year, I met Volcano Friends Feeding Friends and supplied 85 Molokai potato plants for distribution. And this month I am supplying kukui, olena, and lemongrass. But I strongly believe in food sovereignty and am impressed with this group's determination to achieve that. And hopefully we can all be growing 100% of our foods in the near future. And I think that us collaborating with all of these different groups will get us closer to achieving that. So thank you very much. And I'm going to pass you over to Awahoshi.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want me to turn that?
No, I can sit in a good chair.
Okay.
Sorry, I guess it was Mercury retrograde, and I didn't go so well with all my internet stuff, but I am here at Monica. So there you see me in the greenhouse that was a partial subsidy from the USDA grant for high tunnels. And that is actually a gigantic sweet potato that had to be opened with a hammer and a saw. We grow everything organic, both outside and inside. And I'm what they call a young farmer, although I'm 72, because I didn't start farming until the change in everybody's lifestyle that came with the pandemic. And before that, I was a musician with crystal sound. So I brought it today just to show you. And in this time period where I couldn't play music publicly, I began to connect more to the plants and very much researching medicinal edible plants that could grow in this area of East Hawaii volcano fern forest. And I have 3 acres on the fern forest. And my garden, my greenhouse is more kind of like a Mediterranean Italian garden. So half of it is in the ground and the other half on the other side you'll see here are plants that then I market at in the volcano market, and I can swap them 6 times a month. And one of the plants I also feature that you're not seeing here is wheatgrass. So I'll juice fresh wheatgrass for health reasons, but some people buy it for their cats, their chickens, their dogs, and their rabbits. And I've been working with nasturtiums in the back and how to use the natural herbs grown organically to give us a lot of antioxidants and natural vitamins. I was introduced to Volcano Friends, Feeding Friends through the market by meeting Chris. Thank you, Chris. And then we kind of just spread it around, and then I met Kayao, and I love the vision of giving people real food, really paying attention to healthy food. Because in the beginning, I went to a few food distributions for myself, and I wanted to see what people were getting. And I said, well, I think I really compliment how Volcano Friends, Feeding Friends was going for quality food, honoring farmers, looking at things that didn't have a lot of sugar or preservatives, knowing which white rice or which rice to give to people that was healthy, ordering from health food stores. Also, Bulk KL Health Food Store has also donated products. So this is the kind of thing that, I mean, doing planting really keeps you busy. We all know that. And to be in community is what supports the feeling of not being busy, in one sense, for me. Being in community with the growing and the sharing of information. Like most people don't know, the impatiens are highly medicinal, anti-inflammatory, anti-tumor. And I look for research articles about coleus and Brazilian spinach and impatiens and nasturtiums. And these are actually the red peppers grown on, ripened on the vine and in the greenhouse this year. So my vision is that I was part of the Manoa Community Farms in Oahu, there on an academic excursion. And I was there for about 2.5 years living in a greenhouse. So highly recommend to live in something living. And there we were part of 90 community organic gardens. And there were like 3 generations of farmers. We all had a plot. And I helped be part of that foundation. And I really commend that we need more of these community organic plots. And sometimes when I bring it up, people say, oh, people will steal all the food. Well, I don't think so. If we give it away, it's not stealing. So I love being with you. I've heard many. I love the idea of having fruit trees shared, and it's always sad to me when I see land cleared in the forest, so dramatically cleared rather than agroforestry. So I love to be in connection with everybody and look forward to expanding our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abahoshi. The next slide that we have was Ava Libel's presentation, and she was not able to get the bandwidth to be able to present from her location. So some of the challenges that she listed, well, she had about 13 challenges. So I know that we've talked about the Asian semi-slug and the little fire ants. And if we have any time, and I'll go by your guidance, Marcia, do we have any more time that if I can take some questions and kind of wing it as far as what we can do about these challenges?
Hi, Chris. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris. Could you hear me? Yes, we have time.
Oh, okay. So if anybody has any questions, okay, I'll start with the Asian semi-slug then. We've tried a number of measures of how to control the semi-slug. And as you know, the semi-slug doesn't do well on copper because the copper will conduct a current to the slug. However, it has to permeate the slime covering of the slug. So actually the slug has to go over a serrated edge of the copper. And after a time, the copper will oxidize and it won't work. So you have to keep polishing the copper and have sharp edges on the copper that the slug has to go over. The other way to deal with them organically is to put something like cardboard down at night, and then early in the morning go out and actually get the slugs that have gone underneath the cardboard and pick them off. I actually tried going out for a period of 3 months and picking the slugs off my plants 3 to 4 times a night. And that did not decrease the population of the semi-slugs in my area. There are also, I spoke with the CTAR representative, and he said that in his home garden, he actually uses chemical pesticides for the slugs. But what he does is he puts it under his walkways. He has boards that he places between the plants that he walks on, and he raises them up with rocks. And then the slugs will go in underneath the boards. And that's where he has the slug bait. He said that he had used the organic version, the Sluggo, and he said that that didn't really control as well as that he'd like. Are there any other questions that have come up about the different pest controls?
Do you know about this new pest on the avocado trees that everyone's had the last year or so?
I've heard about them, and I know that there are some efforts to do research with them. So I can give you the research on another thread. I can send that to you. Or
that'd be great. Yeah.
Yes, and I'd also like to point out that Volcano Friends Feeding Friends was the lucky recipient of the Puna Strong grant, and we worked in conjunction with Diane Chadwick and the Hawaii Community Foundation, and they were very, very helpful in launching our pivot to what we're doing now. Thank you so much.
You have a question from Stephanie Bath.
Yeah, actually, it's not a question. It's a question comment. Our place was, we had a lot of loss with citrus and with beautiful mature kukuis from the Australian longhorn beetle. I didn't know if anybody else has had an experience. We had the Ag Extension Service guy come out, and he alerted us to what was killing the trees. Generally what happens is the tree will start to fruit and flower and fruit with the kukuis. All of a sudden they got all these nuts, and then the tree dies. Has anybody else had an issue with them? We're actually in Hawaiian Acres. That's where we got the problem.
I'm in Seaview and I have not seen that yet, thank goodness.
They can be anywhere from 2 to 3 inches long in the torso, sort of narrow. They have very long antenna. Yeah. And what they do is they lay the eggs under the cambium and then grow up and bore into the actual tree. I really would recommend that everybody be familiar with what they look like. One of the creepy things is I went to pick one up because we were saving them for the extension service to do their research with, and it went, ah! It actually screamed. Yeah, so I've never heard an insect scream. I felt bad, but yeah, be alerted to them because they're killers.
Which longhorn beetle is it? The Queensland?
I know it as the Australian longhorn beetle. Yeah.
Great.
I spoke with representatives from DLNR when they were first found on Oahu, and they were looking for solutions to this pest. And as far as I know, they haven't come up with solutions yet. If I am able to get more up-to-date information, I'll send it out. I guess we can put it on the resources that are available for this fair.
Thank you, Chris, and everyone. That was wonderful. And now we're going to go to Claudia Zaroli, who is presenting for Puna Makaukau, the Fern Acres Community Resilience Hub. Claudia?
Aloha, everybody. Good morning. I've been a home farmer virtually all of my adult life, but I've been farming in Puna now for about 23 years. And I think I have to say I've probably had my good share of failures, maybe more failures than successes. But, you know, from those kinds of things, we learn a lot more about what we're doing and what we can't do. And so today I thought I would share with you all a little bit about what we've learned and how we're making it work in Upper Puna. And I might say you might want to take notes. I'm going to be dropping some hints and stuff along the way. So let's go. Please ask questions. So, of course, everybody's mentioned so far, Puna, while it is a fantastic place to live and grow vegetables, it doesn't come without its own challenges. And I have to say that first and foremost, we have to talk about the soil or lack thereof. And here in Upper Puna, if you're Mauka of the highway, then you probably have soil, but your soil is on top of a layer of pahoehoe. So if you have soil, you probably have mud. And so it's its own problem. There's microclimates within the mud zone. So that's an additional issue. On the Makai side of the Volcano Highway, we are on lavas that are anywhere from 400 to 1100 years old. And we have a very thin layer of protosoil on the top of our lava. And so everything we want to grow needs to be in soil that we create. So that becomes a major effort if you're growing here. Rain is an issue. In May, we had 46 straight days of rain up here in Mountain View. And so that's way too much rain, and you can't really grow anything in that kind of rain without making some provisions. Either excellent drainage if you're talking about your orchard plants or things that are in the ground, or a greenhouse. Pests are a problem. We have a lot of problems with nematodes here in Upper Puna, and I'm sure elsewhere, same. Mites, we've got the broad mite and the rust mites. We have all kinds of things that like to eat your crops, and so pests are always a problem. And with this much moisture, mildew is always a problem. And I get powdery mildew running through my growth cycle fairly often. And the way I handle powdery mildew is to make a solution to 1 gallon of water. I do about half a teaspoon of liquid detergent, not Dawn, that's a little too heavy duty, but just liquid detergent with a tablespoon of baking soda. And you shake it to get all that in emulsion. And then I can spray it out on my plants, mostly cucumbers. All the squashes are susceptible to powdery mildew. And it just changes the pH on the surface of the leaf sufficiently to keep the mildew at bay. And you can apply it as often as needed without harming the plant. So that is one of my ways of handling this. So let's see what's next. One of the best ways to handle too much moisture is with some kind of growing under cover. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about the difference between the pros and cons of a greenhouse versus a smaller hoop house. It's obviously expense, and so we'll get around to that. But the pros would be that you can control the amount of water, you can control pest access, you can grow year round. So for that reason, it's very, very useful to be able to have a way to grow your plants under cover. We have gotten most of our successes once we moved in under cover, but with that comes some cons, not the least of which is expense. A greenhouse such as we have a 60 by 21 foot Conley high tower, which is the garden standard around here. And we grow what we need in that 60-foot footprint. Heat during the day can be a real issue for some plants. Tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers all really don't like it when the greenhouse gets well up over 100 degrees. And so having open ends, orienting your greenhouse to the trade winds is very important, and being able to help your plants get through a long day of heat with sufficient water is really important. The humidity inside a greenhouse can encourage powdery mildew, and I mentioned I control it with my baking soda magic elixir, so that works really well. And probably it's really important to mention water. It seems like Upper Puna has all the water they can handle, but sometimes we go 40 days with no rain. So we have probably 20,000 gallons of water around our farm in various farm tanks, so that we can support a greenhouse. It takes about 225 gallons to do a thorough deep watering of our greenhouse in its current iteration. This picture you're looking at is when we were growing with raised beds made out of wire and ag mesh, and we've now gone to another system, which I'll address in a little bit. Next, here's a hoop house. This is an inexpensive little hoop house that we built that was a variation of the first one there on the right. That's a simple PVC hoop house. You build it flat on the ground, and then you use rope to pull the two base lines together to make your hoop house. Uber simple, very inexpensive as things go. And we lived with one of these little PVC hoop houses for years and years and years. And it held up really well. 2 years ago during the pandemic, we built the one that you see there on the left because we needed something just a little sturdier. So it's kind of a hybrid of a wooden structure on the lower part so that we could attach, easily attach mesh and keep pests out. And then the plastic and PVC conformation up on top. And I use this one for starting seeds because it's relatively pest safe. I have resources that you can get afterwards that have the materials list and how to get the clips for attaching your plastic to a PVC house. You can see the clips on the left-hand PVC structure. And so those are available to you, and I've got those included in the handouts afterwards. So I recommend having this simple, low-cost little approach to maybe begin with. So we started our raised bed system in something we call crop circles, which I just think was a clever way of talking about these great gardens. We were on a tour and we saw compost piles, and both my husband and I looked at each other and said, wait a minute, that's the way we need to build our raised beds, because they were really inexpensive, super easy and fast to build. Our crop circles, we've retired this year after 22, 23 years in constant use. So they're long-lived, they're portable, and as I said, they're very inexpensive. Again, I've got a resource list for how to build these crop circles, and those will be coming to you afterwards. This is about 16 feet of rabbit wire, and if you can afford the really expensive fancy stuff that's coated, I would recommend it. I think you could probably extend the life of your crop circles with that. And then we go to Rudy's and get these wonderful cutoffs of ag mesh, and using cage clips, we assemble the circle and then attach the ag mesh and then began to fill the crop circles. And we use these, as I said, constantly for so many years. They were really, really effective for us. They do have a con, and that would be that there's so much surface area that they require more watering more frequently than a closed bed would. But other than that, I can't think of a single con with using this crop circle method. But as I said, we retired these and went to culture during the pandemic. We're getting a little on the old side, and it was really nice to be able to build a high bed to work with so that there's no stooping. So here's my same greenhouse that you saw in the earlier pictures, only now we've built these hugels out of recycled corrugated. We are using EMT to create the corners. You can see in that upper right-hand photo, I took a picture of the EMT corner, and then we used roofing screws, self-tapping roofing screws to drill in to create these hugels. And then the lower band of pictures show you how we filled it using the German method, hugel culture, growing in mounds. They developed this and have been using this method for hundreds of years, but we have just discovered the method. And so we're using it, everybody, this is the hot topic in all of the Facebook and farm blogs. Everybody's going hugel. So we filled the bottoms of ours with rotted wood and brush clippings and cardboard and bamboo shoes and palm shoes. Anything we could get that wouldn't sprout again. I wouldn't recommend putting anything that you know is a resprouter, because that's just going to give you trouble further down the line. Then we filled each bed with soil that we had dug out of our crop circles. Then it all came back into the hugel, and put 6 to 8 inches of soil. On top of the soil went county mulch. And kind of in response to some of the early questions, the mulch that we're picking up on a monthly basis has been so hot. We have not had any fire ants, and this is not an issue for us. So that's just our experience. It's really hot. If you store your mulch so that it's at least 2 feet thick, it maintains that heat and keeps cooking. So it really does prevent the ants from finding a home in your mulch. So we haven't had any trouble with fire ants. On top of our county mulch, we put another layer of our soil, again, the stuff we've dug out of the beds, which is a mix of cinder and wash soil from the Hamakua. That back in the day, that was pretty much all we could get. We tested it for metals and pesticides, and it was clean. So we went on ahead and used wash soil. And then on top of that, we use our leaf mold, our composted macadamia nut husk, whatever we have, the good stuff goes on the top. And we just kind of hoolie the soil and that upper leaf mold. And that's what we're planting directly into. And it's been really successful already. The slide you see in the upper left was when we first planted out. And now those tomatoes are way up 6 feet high above our beds. So they've really done well in this first year with the hugels. So on with the next one, we have to build this soil and we have to keep our hugels growing. One of the things with the hugels is that they keep breaking down. So you have to keep adding material to keep the levels of growing up. So we keep adding more soil, keep adding more county mulch, more leaf mold, and more worms. I love vermiculture. Vermiculture is like magic, I think. We put a little bit of soil or a little bit of leaf mold in the bottom, tear up cardboard, put a little shredded paper in, and voila, worms come. It's kind of extraordinary. And we use just our local Alabama jumpers, the local indigenous earthworm that's around Upper Puna is this jumper worm, and CTAR has a really great handout on vermiculture using these Alabama jumpers. So if you go to CTAR and look that up, you'll see that they've got everything you need to kind of get started with it. The tub picture on the left is what we're using. This is our vermiculture tub when they were brand new and fancy, and so you can see how we're growing them. I've also included resources for vermiculture for a handout. It shows you how to make the tub, where to drill the holes, how to get everything started. But I think last week, Chris asked me about how are we getting the worms? Where do we start? And my best answer would be to put cardboard out, say in your orchard or out adjacent to the garden where it will get rained on. The worms come and they infiltrate the cardboard. And if you give them a little bit of time, soon you'll be able to harvest handfuls of young worms to populate your worm beds. So that's how we're getting our Alabama jumpers to populate our vermiculture farm. We rotate our tubs maybe once a year if I'm on top of things, and we just keep adding materials, a little bit of compost. Sometimes there's kitchen waste that the chickens and ducks don't eat, so I scoop that up and throw it in the tub. The worms aren't eating the compost. The worms are drawn to the microculture that grows around all those garden scraps. So they're eating the molds and the mildews and the things that are being brought in. That's what they feast on. So you just keep introducing things that might entice that kind of growth, and the worms thrive. So you can keep adding more cardboard and more leaf mold and more local soil, and just keep giving them. Pretty soon they'll move up into the second tub and a third tub if you want to keep going. Usually when they move into the second tub, that's the time for me to clean them out. So cardboard, addressing cardboard and this next thing. We use cardboard for our mulch all around our farm. We have about 100 trees in our orchard. And the entire orchard now is mulched with cardboard. On top of the cardboard, we put county mulch. We put all of our clippings. We strip all of our palm fronds and put that down on top. The kalo and the uala and the ground peanuts grow right in over that, and they're creating the understory for our orchard. And the difference in soil quality and the ability for our trees to fight whatever comes through has improved so much since we started this practice. So I can really recommend it just from our personal experience, that cardboard mulch and green mulches and anything you have to build the soil around your orchard and keep the soil covered and free from the harsh sun. That's the way to go. Here's a way we're growing our green mulch. We are growing hyacinth, duckweed, water cabbage, and these are just in our farm tanks. We keep platyfish in them to keep the mosquitoes down, and then we harvest about 2/3 of this green mulch and use it directly into our beds that breaks down slowly, and it gives a nice mat that keeps the moisture covered and in the soil. So I really recommend just growing hyacinth in your farm tanks. It's a great way to get through it. Oh, I wanted to mention also, we compost to our chickens rather than composting in the traditional way with all of our kitchen waste. All the kitchen waste goes into our chicken house, and the chickens mix it and stir it all up for us. We have sawdust, and we put down anything that we have to mix into the waste on their floor. They stir it up for us, and then we harvest it off the floor. And by then it's composted and aged, and we can use it almost directly on our plants. We don't put it right up next, but we do use it right out of the chicken house. This slide shows just a few of the seed catalogs that we take. It is one of my most favorite things in the whole wide world, is to pore over farm catalogs and look at some of the heirloom crops that we might be interested in growing. I've listed a few of the things that we grow in our greenhouse, and the greatest hits vegetables. I'd say any Asian crop, any Asian green grows beautifully here. So we get a lot of things from Thailand, and we grow Thai cucumbers and Thai greens. They're wildly successful. And so there's a list of those kinds of things that are available through catalogs, and we really recommend that you do that. Let's look at the next slide. Next one, please. I'll hurry up here. One more. Yeah, there we go. Back one. Back there. So in conclusion, here's an outside bed. It is okay. It's growing peppers, it's growing beans, but nothing compared to what we do under cover. So I just wanted to use this last slide as a comparison, and I want to really thank our benefactors of the Puna Strong Grants and Hawaii Community Foundation. They are the ones that's helping our little 501c3 Puna Makaukau Fern Acres Community Association get our hub up off the ground, and hopefully get all of our community growing for their own and building resilience and independence with gardening. So we're new at this, and it's just a new project, but we're really excited to be working with the Hawaii Community Foundation on building this up and getting this mana'o out to everybody so that they have the success and the joy of growing at home. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.
That was outstanding, all of you. Spectacular.
Thank you, Claudia. Does anybody have questions for Claudia or any of our farmers? Okay, so
Patty, sorry to interrupt, Patty. This is Shannon Matson. I put my comment in the chat because I'm kind of moving around right now. I'm wondering, I love that list that Claudia had of the ones, the things that are proven good growers in our area. Is there any way I can get a copy of that, either emailed or somehow sent to me later? I didn't have a pen, so I wasn't able to jot it all down.
we're going to email to all of you Claudia's list of how-tos and resources, and all of the contact information from all the farmers who presented today is here. So all of these slides will be emailed to you, as well as all the resources that each of our presenters has gathered to make available to you. And then a video of this workshop will be made available in a couple of weeks on the Kilauea Recovery website. And we'll send you that link when it comes out.
Thank you so much, Patty. That's wonderful.
Are there more questions, comments?
I see one from Susan Collins to everybody. If it's regarding the mesh, we use anything Rudy's has as a remnant. You can buy big rolls of remnant mesh at Rudy's greenhouse just off of Steinbach. So that also is in your resource material.
Thank you. Marcia, can you advance a slide? So on Tuesday, July 12th, the Revitalize Puna Community Activation event will take place. We're going to be at the Pahoa gym, and we will have presentations from all the county departments, their heads and representatives who are working on recovery efforts with infrastructure and funding. And then we're going to break into dialogue groups with these same people. And there will also be updates from all the resilience capacity teams giving information on their work. So hope you can join us for that, and information will come out to you about signing up to attend these. This is going to be an in-person event. So thank you, everyone. As I said, we'll send all of this information out to all of you via email, and we're really glad you could come, and so grateful to all our farmers and presenters today. It just was like marvelous. Thank you.